Well, hey guys. This video is titled How I Met God. So I am going to go through with you guys how I met God. And I met God in my mother's basement. So let's get into this video. But before we do, my name is Crystal and welcome to my channel if you're new here. If you have not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. We are on the road to get this channel monetized. So this is actually my fourth time trying to record this video. And it seems like every time I sit down to record it, something happens or something goes wrong. And that just lets me know that this is a video that I really need to record. Let me just give you a quick introduction. I am a content creator. I create family and lifestyle content surrounding myself being a single mother of 7 children and being a Christian woman. I'm just going to give you a little background about my Christian upbringing. I grew up in the Christian church. I grew up at Church of God in Christ in Detroit, Michigan. So if you know anything about Church of God in Christ, or Kojic as they call it, then you know that it was I'm not going to say a strict Christian upbringing, but they were very serious about the Christian lifestyle. So I sang in the choir. I went to Sunday service. We went to Bible study. I went with my grandmother to visit the sick and shut in. I served if I was called to serve, whether it was serving food, whatever it was, wherever I was called to serve, I did it. But during these years, I was just going through the motions. I was a child, so I was just going through the motions. I was doing as I was instructed, because one thing that was always drilled in you was obedience. And I didn't want to be disobedient to what I was being told. Fast forward a few years, at the age of 17, I was going through a phase where I was really lost. I call these my lost years. So from 17 to about 23, I was maybe even 24, maybe 24. I was really lost. I had lost my father at the age of 15, and I started to question if God was really real. Because if he was, then why would he have allowed my father to leave me? At the age of 17, I was in my mother's basement, and I was really down. And I remember praying, and I asked God, I said, God, if you are really real, if you're really real, then show me. Just show me that you're real. Because I just didn't know. I didn't know which way to go. I was lost, as I said. Fast forward a year later, I ended up getting pregnant and giving birth to my first child. And her name was Azaria. I had subsequently, after having Azaria, I got married. I had another child. But at this point, my marriage was not in a good place. Not in a good place at all. I ended up getting pregnant a third time. I ended up getting pregnant a third time. This time was different. My husband was having an affair. We had bought a house, but the house was in foreclosure. And our oldest daughter our oldest daughter, Azaria, had became ill. She was diagnosed with cancer. So if you can imagine, I'm 23 years old. I am pregnant with my third child at the time. My husband is cheating. My house is in foreclosure. I was going through it. I had completely checked out. I had completely checked out mentally. I was in a place where I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do, didn't know who to turn to. I could talk to my family about certain things, but I couldn't talk to them about everything because, for one, I knew that they would talk about me more than they would help me. And that's just what people do. And some things you just can't share with everybody. I didn't know what to do, so I took it to God. I ended up going to church. At this point, I had given birth to my daughter Christina. My other daughter Azaria was in and out of the hospital, going through chemo, radiation, surgeries, you name it, she was going through it. Test after test, stem cell transplant. I mean, it was hard. But one thing I noticed, that while Azaria was going through all this, she always talked about God. She always talked about her faith. And I kept saying, where is this little girl getting this faith from? She was 5 years old. She was 5 years old. And I kept saying, where is this little girl getting all of this faith from? And why? I was just amazed. I was so amazed. I ended up going to church. And I don't remember exactly what was said, but I felt led to get up and go to the altar for prayer. Because I felt like if I didn't, then I was going to lose my mind. I went up for prayer. They took me to the back, and a team started praying for me. And one person, she put her hands on me, and when she put her hands on me, she said, honey, you are about to have a nervous breakdown. And I just started crying, because I was, and I knew I was. She was absolutely right. What she was feeling on me was I was about to lose it. They prayed for me. And I'm grateful for that prayer. I ended up going home. I felt, a little better, like things had been lifted. So I went home. I ended up moving back in with my mother during this time that my daughter was sick. I just couldn't take being in the marriage another day. So I left. So I left that toxic marriage. And I moved back in with my mother with my 3 small children. During this time, mentally I'm still struggling. And I just started praying. So once again, in my mother's basement, which I think that was my safe space. In my mother's basement, I stood in the middle of the basement and I just started praying. And I don't remember everything that I prayed about, but I knew that it was time for me to just give it to God and let it go, because it was going to destroy me. So I prayed, and I remember crying and just laying it all out on the line. And what happened was I felt a feeling. I felt the presence of God. I felt as if someone had just walked up behind me and just wrapped their arms around me and just held me. And I mean, I cried and I cried and I cried and I couldn't believe it. And I said, oh my God, you are real. I knew in that moment God was real. There was no doubt in my mind that God was real. And not only was God real, but that God was with me, and God was holding me, and God was protecting me. And I just, from that moment on, I had just been a believer, a follower of Christ. After that, I went back to church and I got baptized. That was about 20 years ago. So of course, I haven't always lived on the straight and narrow. Sometimes I go like this, sometimes I go like this. But one thing is for sure, I can totally tell you from my life experiences that God is real. And that is how I met God. I met God in my mother's basement. But there is no doubt that every time I call on the name of God, or I call on Jesus, that things happen, things move, situations change. Okay, guys, so my camera died on me, but that's pretty much been what it's been since I've been trying to make this video. Everything that could possibly go wrong goes wrong, and I know that in cases like that, it's just something that's trying to prevent you from sharing your story, which I would never let that happen. This is a story that I felt needed to be told. I wish I could have told it in more in depth, and hopefully I shared a lot with you guys. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to leave a question or a comment, because I would love to start a dialogue. I would love to know where you are in your faith walk. I would love to know how you met God, if you've met God, if you have your doubts. One thing I know to be true is, after everything that I've seen in life, I've learned not to question God. I've learned not to question God. Most people who have been through the things that I've been through, I've had some of the biggest losses that I could have ever had in my life. I've lost my father, I've lost my mother, my grandmother, my spiritual mother, and I lost my daughter, Azaria. So a lot of times when people lose that much, they tend to turn away from God. But instead, it seemed like I turned more to God in those instances to get me through. So, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.